Welcome to video number 2 in the series of videos that I'm doing for this Q&A thing here. I'm here at my house in beautiful Seattle, or the outskirts of Seattle, and you can see it's starting to get cloudy, which is preparing us for the 6 months of rain season that we're about to experience. So, yeah. Anyway, doing this kind of brightens my day, so I'm going to go answer a few more questions in this video. There were a bunch of questions about favorites, favorite album and song and artist and you know, stuff like that, moments. So I'm going to answer sort of a few of those and try to give credit to the person that asked the question. So the first one is, what was your favorite album to record and why? And also favorite songs to play live. That's by Kevin Quirt on Facebook. My favorite album to record, now of course these favorites are all going to be subjective, they're my favorites, I can't speak for anybody else. So my favorite album to record was Dichotomy, because it had a lot to do with Devon Townsend and his experience, but you know, even just the atmosphere. You know, we in the summer of 2008 we got to record at Devon, and that got worked out. We wanted to do it, and it worked out. So we flew up to Vancouver, BC, and got on a ferry with him to go to a studio that he had at the time on Gibson's Island. And Gibson's Island is this sort of island out in the Sound, right off of Vancouver. It took about an hour or so on the ferry to get there. And his studio was this little cabin. It was really cool. We had little black bears that would come into the yard and stuff while we were recording. So you can imagine this really great, quaint, you know, area, and Devon's personality and sort of the changes he was going through as a person were just really unique and exciting and special. Our songs were kind of a mess. We wrote that album really separately. So John wrote 4 songs on his own, and then you know, he recorded them at his house and sent them to Jason and I, and you know, we would kind of look at them and kind of give suggestions, and we'd tweak them and stuff. And then I wrote 2 songs plus the instrumental, and we tweaked those a little bit. Jason wrote a song and had us sort of figure out some of the details about it. Even Lopez wrote a song for Dichotomy, and then the first one was kind of a mishmash of everything. It was it was kind of all of us working together, but the recording experience was just phenomenal. You know, just ideas were flowing amazingly, and Devon was just adding these different elements that just blew us away and made us so excited about how the songs were coming out. You know, we started off with these songs and thought, oh, okay, this is alright, you know, it's a decent song. And we get into, you know, sort of do pre-production with Devon at his studio, and he's having us play these songs through, and he's giving these suggestions that just make them so much better. And then once we actually started recording them, you know, he's adding on these layers and suggesting these layers and helping bring out the best in us, asking John to do a solo maybe differently, or me to add a key section to a riff that I didn't originally have one for, or add singing over some screaming vocals, things like that, that just were not things we would have thought of on our own, and really got the songs to be much better than any of us thought they could be. So that was just a great experience. And you know, a lot of people asked a lot of questions about Devon, and I'll probably try to do those in a separate video, because there were just so many people curious about details about that experience, and whether we'd work with him again, and what's going on in his life, etc. So I may get to some of those at some other point, but for now I'll finish this one. And the second part of this question was about my favorite songs to play live, and personally I would say that Necrotizing Fasciitis was always a lot of fun to play live. It's just brutal all the way through. It had some great moments that we could interact with fans and different riffs. It was just a lot of fun every time, and you know, I believe that we played it pretty much every show after that song came out, and part of that was because it was such a short song. that it just fit into the set. You know, if we ever had to make a shorter set, it always stuck around because it didn't take that much time. And it was, you know, we just always, the crowd always interacted with it great, and we had fun with it. So that was one. I also liked the Epigon. We played at most of our shows, and it always had that awesome part right before the breakdown where I was allowed to kind of be free because usually the other guitarist would intro that breakdown. And so I got to do some cool stuff then at shows, especially probably most notably at Cornerstone 2000. I think it was Cornerstone 2007, but maybe 2008. It's one of the biggest Cornerstones we ever played, and you know, there's 2,000 or 3,000 people in the huge tent, and they're all going crazy. And during the intro to that riff, to that breakdown, is it was Alex who was in the band at the time. As he's sort of entering that riff, I had a long enough cable that I walked over on top of those speakers that are on the side of the stage and crawled up super high on those poles that go all the way to the top of the tent. And I didn't reach all the way to the top, but I got way up there, probably 25 or 30 feet in the air, and I sort of hung back with one hand and joined in the riff once it was my turn to come in, and then sort of jumped off the top of those once everything came in. You know, nothing can stand in your way. You know, and that was just a really cool experience. That was a lot of fun, and that song just always provided moments like that for me. So those two, Necrotizing and the Epigon, probably were my two favorite to play live. The next question is, what's my favorite song off of each album and why? So I'll go through that chronologically. Terminate Damnation, my favorite song, is Elegy. And really I'm going to answer these in terms of what is the song that I would like to listen to the most at any given moment. I was just really pleased with how Elegy came out. It's got a bunch of different aspects to it. It's a really dynamic song, and I'm really, really proud of it. And the everything about it, I just really like that song. Physics of Fire is sort of a tie between the Monolith and Immolation. I like both of them. There's, you know, it's hard with Physics of Fire because basically every track on Physics has something that I'm not fond of about it, whether it's the way that this was recorded, or the way that was mixed, or the speed at which the song was recorded, you know, or just so many different things with different songs that just make me at least somewhat unsatisfied with almost every track. But those two are the closest to what I think they could have been. Yeah, those for Physics of Fire. For Dichotomy, there's kind of the opposite situation. With Dichotomy, there's so many great moments with the production and with the songwriting and everything that it was kind of hard to choose one. But if I had to go with one, I really have had emotional responses a lot to End of the Age, and just how much that song meant to us recording it, and how it came out, and the beauty of the lyrics and the verses and the ending and all that. So for Celestial Completion, there are a lot of songs I like, but I probably have to say I really like Breathing Light as far as if I have to listen to a song from that album at any moment. Again, happy with how that song came out, and the music video, which I posted recently on my Facebook page, was really neat and cool. And there's a really unique song for BTA. We haven't done a song like that before or since, and so I just enjoy that song. Sadly, that was not a good song to play live. We only played it once, and it didn't go over well. It's really awkward. Well, actually, at the same with the Elegy. Elegy did not go over well live when we played it in its entirety. People kept asking. We did it twice, and it was not good. Celestial Progression, which is a remix album. So a duo from Nashville did track number 1 on the remix EP. And then a friend of ours named Sean Patrick Murphy from Chicago did the other 5 remixes. And Sean's also the one that played sitar on some Celestial Completion tracks. Um, and my favorite off that, it really is the last track, Magnetic World. It's really beautiful. It's really calm. It's really beautiful, and I listen to that sometimes at night when I'm just kind of hanging out by myself and being calm and quiet. And then for I Am, I really probably like the Sky Bearer the most. Funny thing about that is that when you say it fast, it sounds like you're saying Sky Bear, like it's like one of the long lost Care Bears or something. But the name is actually the Sky Bearer. So if you really dig in and say it right, it makes sense. But yeah, that can be a fun one to play around with. Okay, the next question is really short, but I think you get the gist of it. The question, oh, by the way, the question I just answered was from John Wesley Osborne. Sorry, the favorite song off each album and why. So the next one is by Apollo Miranda, and I think I'm saying that right. He asks, Dancy Grave or Necrolord? And I'm going to have to say Dancy Grave. Necrolord is Christian Wallen, who did our Dichotomy album, and I'm just answering this in terms of their artwork for us. Christian Wallen has great stuff that we got to see on our last European tours. He had an exhibit set up at one of the festivals, and he had some really great pieces of art. And I do like the artwork for Dichotomy, but there's a reason we kept going back to Dancy Grave. Celestial was really good. I Am was really good, but Terminate Damnation, the artwork is just unbelievable. You know, to be honest, it's my favorite Dancy Grave painting that he's ever done, and possibly my favorite album cover. And I'm allowed to say that because I didn't make it. You know, we had the concept, and he actually made it awesome. So, yeah, that's. I mean, I just think that's amazing. And when someone's done a piece of art like that, you kind of can't argue with that. The next question is from Todd Hurst, and it is the bean burrito still an adequate prize on the Taco Bell drop a coin game? My answer is no. Bean burrito sucks, especially at Taco Bell. It's tasteless, and there's a reason it's about $1. The reason Todd Axe asks that is because we used to eat at Taco Bell pretty frequently, and when they had the coin drop thing, Jason found a way to, if it was one of the water ones, he would move the turnstile so that the bubbles coming up would be trapped underneath the turnstile thing, and then when you drop the coin in, it would drop straight down, and you could catch it that way. So he would win every time, so he'd be dropping in these dimes and getting bean burritos. So every time we had Taco Bell, he was eating like 20 or 30 cents of food and getting full. And I guess people started noticing that because Taco Bell either took out the drop a coin game altogether, or they changed them to a different one that didn't have water and the bubbles in it. So it's a little bit more difficult. And Daniel Gailey actually got pretty good at that too, and he would win some stuff. But you know, if I'm going to risk any kind of money, I don't want to eat a bean burrito even if it's free, unless I'm starving. So no, Todd, that is not an adequate prize for that game. Okay, we're getting late in the video here, so here's the last question. This is by Micah Jones, and it is, Seth, what is one of your favorite moments during your tenure with BTA? Also, sporks, necessary on the road. I'm going to start off with that second question, say sporks are completely unnecessary unless it's made of metal and you need to dig a small hole. I can't actually think of many other uses for a spork other than, you know, you don't have a fork or a spoon that you can use. It's sort of one of those worst of both worlds sort of situations, I think. And so then I finish with, you know, that first part of his question. One of my favorite moments during my tenure with BTA, and I'd have to say, you know, there's a lot, of course, and there's some funny and weird things that happen, but one of the most proud times I was during the Undying tour with, and that was with Demon Hunter and Zayo and August Burns Red, Spoken, us, and man, I mean, so many nights it would be, you know, 2,000 kids packed into an 1,800 capacity room, and you couldn't breathe inside the room because there was no AC, and it was literally 90 something and incredibly humid, and you just felt like you couldn't breathe and catch your breath. And the energy and excitement was something that you can't explain. It was just insane. So all those nights on that tour were so great. But I will say, there was one particular night, we were playing Elegy at the time, and on the recording, Ryan Clark did the guest vocal part there in the, I guess it's really the last vocals that are in the song. And on that tour, we kept asking if he would come and do guest vocals on stage with us during the song. And he kept saying no and no and no. And finally, we had a show on that tour in Atlanta, where the band was from. And finally, he said he would do it just for Atlanta. And so I think there's a video on YouTube that you can watch this happen. But we're playing Elegy, and we knew Ryan was going to do it, so he comes to my side of the stage, and I sort of step over the side, and he comes up and he does it with us. And Ryan was just a big part of becoming the archetype, being who we were, because he discovered the band and was our A&R guy and did a ton of art for us and sort of gave us our initial directions for the first few years. And so having him do not only guest vocals on albums, but come and perform live with us on that song was just a really big deal to us, and we have always appreciated that. So anyway, that's the end of video number 2, and it's quite long, over 16 minutes, so hopefully there'll be another one soon. Bye.